Welcome back, friends. So in the current lecture we are discussing about orientation program, and orientation program welcomes the new hires so that they can be acclimatized to the new environment, because whenever we join a new job or a new organization as an employee, we feel certain anxiety, certain level of stress as to how we will be performing our job, what all people we will be interacting with, who will be my supervisor, what relationship we can develop, how I can be dealing with the resources, asking for these resources. So we discussed about the elements of an orientation program, and interestingly, an orientation program benefits both the new hire as well as the organization, because the new hire gets information about the organization, and the organization also gets to know that what career goals, what expectations has the new employee come with. And if the organization is able to understand those expectations and move in their direction, they can retain their employees in a better way. So moving further, we are going to discuss now about the requisites of an effective program. So what all needs to be covered, what all aspects need to be covered to make an effective orientation program. So first of all, prepare for new employees. So new employees must initially feel that they belong to the organization and they are important for the organization. So both the supervisor and the co-workers should be prepared to receive the employee. So that warmth or that acceptance should be exhibited when the new employee joins, the welcoming part. Then determine the information that new employees want to know. So certainly when the employee joins, he must be having certain questions in mind. What all information, what all questions are there in the mind of an employee, that should be determined beforehand. And often new employees receive information on issues, much of which is not immediately required. So they fail to get vital information needed during the first day of a new job. So whatever is in the mind of an employee, whatever questions they want to ask, they do not get that information, but they get the information which they do not require. So there has to be a coordination between the supervisor, the HR unit, so that they demonstrate the importance that management attaches to its orientation program. So that clarity has to be there. It should not be that the organization is saying something else, the supervisor wants something else, the HR department is stating something else. That will lead to confusion. So whatever information you are giving to the employee, please make sure that is it required immediately. Because I am working today, I will be working in my job, so what all information is required immediately to perform my job? And the information you are giving me, that information maybe I will require after 2 or 3 months of performing my job. So that information that you are providing becomes irrelevant at that point of time. So you must ensure this. Then next, determine how to present information. This how of presenting is also very crucial. The line managers and HR representatives should determine the most appropriate way to present the orientation information. For example, rather than telling an employee verbally about so many things that are there, we have already discussed about the elements of an orientation program. So what if I tell each and everything to the new employee in a verbal manner? I make him sit and I am just talking to him, giving them all the organizational issues, all the employee benefits that he or she will be getting. So the information will be lost. You cannot learn and understand after a point of time. So that information may be presented in a handbook so that he can take back home and just go through instead of just verbally explaining all these aspects to the employee. Then completion of paperwork is also very important during the orientation program. So all essential paperwork should be completed during orientation so that employee gets paid accurately and on time, because when the paperwork is not done, certainly the accounts department will not release your salary, which again can be a negative impression that an organization might create in the mind of the new employee, because we love to get salary on time. So all these paperwork must be completed during the orientation, and various tax and insurance forms, other items need to be completed in a timely manner. So now let's learn about the evaluation of the orientation program. So the firms with formal orientation program, they ask employees to complete a questionnaire that evaluates their orientation, and this questionnaire is administered after some length of time in order to enable the employee to gain some perspective about the work and the company. So obviously it's not that you are undergoing your orientation and just after 1 or 2 days they come for the evaluation or give you the questionnaire. So that will make no sense. So enough time is given to the new hire so that he can comprehend whatever has been told to him, how things are being done and how he or she fits into the job, and where he will be working, what all people he will be reporting to, who are their co-workers, so that they can acclimatize and gel accordingly. And when he or she is comfortable, only then he will be able to answer to the questions effectively. So that evaluation is only effective if the questionnaires are answered properly and at the right time. So group discussions sessions can also be held with new employees who have settled comfortably into their jobs. So that is giving time to make yourselves comfortable in the job, and only then the evaluation of the program can be done. So whatever approach, the feedback from these employees, it enables a firm to adopt its orientation program to specific suggestions of new employees. Now what are the problems of an orientation program? Now we have already learnt about the benefits of an orientation. Every organization knows that having an orientation program for its employees is a win-win situation for both the employee and the organization. And they also design such an orientation program. They try hard to have an effective orientation program. But still, what happens is that an orientation program might fail to do what it must do. So the objectives are failed. So what are these certain problems or barriers of having an effective orientation program for the employees? So let's learn about some minor and major problems as well for the orientation program. So firstly, the supervisor who was entrusted to hold an orientation program is not trained or is too busy with other duties that he just overlooks this orientation program. He is not even trained how to welcome people, how to make people comfortable in their new roles. So when that is the scenario, when the supervisor himself is not giving time enough to the new hire will never be able to develop a relationship with the supervisor, and he will not feel comfortable while joining his new duty. Also, sometimes the employee is overwhelmed with too much information in a short time. So, the new employee joins and the orientation program provides him with so much of information that he is confused. He is overwhelmed with the information, and that too given in a short time. So, what you can do is that you can divide the information into certain number of days. That, for example, the orientation program is for 1 month, so you can divide the entire information or break up the entire information dimensions into shorter ones, so that every day little bit of information is given to the employee, so that he doesn't become overwhelmed and there is an information tsunami for him. So, employee is given only menial tasks that discourage job interest and company loyalty. So, many a times during the orientation program, there is just a superficial information is given, or the menial tasks are given or told to the employee that he or she will be performing. Now, that makes him lose interest in the job that he is going to perform, and this further affects the loyalty or engagement for the company. So, the next problem is that the employee is asked to perform tasks where there are high chances of failure that could needlessly discourage employee. So, don't make the employee do these tasks where the chances of success are less, because this will discourage them and demotivate them, and it will create a wrong impression about the job he is going to be performing in the coming couple of months, say. So, these difficult tasks should not be given during the orientation. Then another problem is that employee is pushed into job with a sketchy orientation under the mistaken belief that trial by fire is best orientation. So, many a times the organizations, they just have a sketchy 1 day, 2 day, 3 day orientation, and they believe that the employee will learn while he is performing the duty. So, that can also create a problem, because the employee has not learnt enough about the organization. He has not learnt enough about the supervisors, the people he will be working with, where he will be working. So, this sketchy orientation can cause a lot of stress to the employee while working. Also, the employee is forced to fill in gaps between a broad orientation by the HR department and a narrow orientation at department level. So, employee may develop wrong perceptions also because of short periods spent on each job. So, many times what happens is that employee is made to do or made to spend some time doing a particular job, so that he learns the basics of all jobs. So, this also demotivates and discourages employees, because until and unless you learn enough about a particular skill or a particular job, you will not feel confident. But what you are doing as an employer, you are making them spend just a few minutes or maybe 2 hours on a particular job. So, the employee will not learn about this and will stay confused. So, this confusion will definitely impact its productivity and performance. So, many times employee is overloaded with forms to complete. This must also be avoided. As the information tsunami I was talking about, at times many organizations have so many forms that have to be completed by the employee. So this overload can also make the employee overwhelmed. And most organizations, what they do, they just throw an employee into action too soon. So that is just like having a very brief orientation and just pushing the employee into action so that they become more productive earlier. So, but that has a negative impact, because organizations feel that making employees or welcoming employees and having an orientation program of a longer period will be a waste of time. However, we have already discussed that when an orientation program is done in a proper manner, it improves the productivity and performance of the employee. So the longer the orientation, the better the performance of the employee. So instead of throwing them into action, just spend time, give them the time to learn maximum during this orientation. So here are some orientation by organizations. For example, the HSBC, there are games like Two Truths and a Lie, Anagram Solver, Human Bingo. These are aimed at getting to know more about the employees, their likes, dislikes and hobbies, so that employees are playing games and also they are getting information as to how an employee behaves, what are their dislikes, likes and their hobbies. Then there are activities like Catch Me If You Can, which is focused on identifying characteristics of an individual such as the observation power. Similarly, at Yahoo, the company overview, history, vision and priorities are presented in a long PowerPoint deck, and Yahoo takes their new employees through a fun discovery map exercise where they discover aspects of the company in small groups, and there are discussions, videos, stories which help new employees discover what Yahoo stands for and what its priorities are. So friends, job orientation being structured by the organization provides new employees with a great start at the organization, and neglecting this step can result in early employee turnover, which must be avoided. So whenever a new employee joins an organization, his mind is clouded by so many questions, uncertainty, anxiety to adjust and adapt into the new environment. So until and unless he brings in all his emotions to work, he will not become productive and his performance will not be 100%. And the moment you remove this cloud, the moment he gets clarity, the moment he is welcomed, and the moment he gets this impression that he is valued by their organization, his performance, his productivity and his engagement will improve. And we all know that when an employee is engaged, he will be retained, thus reducing employee turnover or employee attrition. But the organizations sometimes feel that an orientation program is a waste of time and they want that the employee should get into their job sooner, which is the biggest mistake. So the employee, when given a proper welcome, will have a better retention rates. So it is crucial to have a well-designed job orientation in place to help employees boost their productivity, performance and engagement from the very beginning. So don't think that engagement will come only after 1 year or 2 years of working. No, it doesn't happen that way. The moment he feels valued, he will be engaged. Make them feel valued. Express that you care. Welcome them wholeheartedly. Create an environment for them where they can express freely, where they can come out with opinions, where they are not afraid of sharing their feelings of anxiety. So when we have such an environment, and when this entire information about the organization is conveyed effectively to the new employee, he will definitely be engaged, bringing in the mind, body and soul into his work. So friends, today we discussed orientation, and orientation is a process which takes place when we complete our selection process. So when the final selection is done after the interviews or rounds of interviews at times, the people you are hiring will join, but before they start performing their actual duty, organizations have an orientation program whereby they give the basic information about the company's vision, mission, what all resources they have, what all resources will be provided to them to perform their job, what is the history of the organization, who will be your supervisor, who will be your team members, who will be your immediate supervisor, what is the hierarchy in the organization, and all these informations are given to the new hire, and this benefits both the organization as well as the new employee. The new employee gets to know about the organization, gets more clarity as to what is to be done, and similarly the organization also benefits from an orientation program in terms of better productivity, better performance and improved engagement of employees. So once you have a good effective orientation program, it will definitely benefit all the stakeholders. So with this we come to the end of this lecture on orientation program. So once the orientation is over, the employee starts working in the organization. So what will happen when the employee is working? After some time, he has to be trained and developed. So the next topic that we are going to learn in the subsequent lectures in the series on human resource management, we will be learning about training. So orientation, we can say, comes in between recruitment and selection and training. So with recruitment and selection, we bring in new people to the organization, and in training we have to train them so that they can perform effectively, they can be upskilled, right? But what comes in between training and selection is the orientation that we learnt about today. So we are going to start with a new topic on training in the next lecture. Thank you.